Oh. Question is it going to echo? I don't think so. I think that we're okay here. Mhm. We are just waiting for the top of the hour here. Turn my camera back. Oh, my hair got crazy. That's what I get for taking my headset on, putting it back on, taking it off, putting it back on. So we will be getting started shortly. Hopefully everyone's pumped about doing some bridge. I know that this little layout isn't exactly perfect. It's the first time I've tried to do something like this. I'm gonna get it reorganized and refit for next time. But hopefully this is a little bit more of a fun look at all the things. So I do have a Zoom meeting open right now for anybody who is interested in joining and asking questions in real time. Either way should be fine. But I thought it might be fun for some people who maybe wanted to work on trying to ask questions more in a time frame where it's easier for me to answer them quickly for you. So I figured I would start hosting a little Zoom meeting at the same time. And I think the way that I'm doing it now is probably going to be the best way for us to do this. So I have the challenge question up on the screen. So if you know how to tackle it, I would certainly recommend putting that in the chat. So if you know how to tackle this problem, I'm going to ask you to put it in the chat, because this is a really good little puzzle to work on to start yourself off. And I think it's really important to bring up things about both card play and about bidding in each lesson. So, like I said, we will be getting started here shortly, just sort of waiting for it to tick over. All right, so we are basically at the top of the hour here, so I am going to get this organized and we are going to get going here. All right. So, hello and welcome everybody to the next exciting week of learning how to play bridge. Last week we just did a broad overview of the game of bridge, and this week I thought it would be very important to talk about how we score. So we need to understand what the goal of the game is, and this is where I think a lot of people end up getting really tripped up because they don't understand why we decide to go this way or that way in the auction. So let's talk about how we score. So our agenda for today, we're going to start with our challenge question, which I just had up on the screen. We're going to talk about our goals in the auction. Then we're going to be trying to understand scoring, and this is going to come in a few parts. First, we're going to talk about defenders points, then we're going to talk about trick points, and then finally we're going to talk about bonus points. Then I'll tell you guys what's coming up next week. So here is that challenge question again. So the question is, how do we play this suit to give ourselves the best chance at 2 tricks? So as avid card players, we can sit here and think to ourselves, all right, I know that the king and the queen, the ace is the only card higher than that. So if I bang down that king and lose to the ace, now my queen is going to be the highest one left. But that's only getting 1 trick. So that's really easy. But let's see what we can do to try to get 2. So, looking at this hand, there is only two places where that ace can be. The ace is the relevant card here. So, the ace can either be in the left hand or in the right hand. And so, depending on where it is, we may or may not have an opportunity to get that trick, that second trick that we're looking for. So let's start with what's gonna happen if it's in the east hand here. So if it's over on the right. Well, anytime that we play the king or the queen or small, East will be able to see which card we play before they make their decision. So, most of the time, unless they just start with the ace, which I would not expect, and we're thinking more if we lead the suit. So outside of the instance where they lead the suit, we're not going to have any chance for us to get two tricks here. But if instead West has the ace of spades, so West or the person to the right of us has the ace, we want to lead through that person. We want to see what card they play first before we make a decision. So this is not a guarantee, but it is giving ourselves an extra chance at getting an extra trick. So we know we can get one, we want to try to get two. How could we possibly get two? Well, by leading one of our low cards up towards the king and the queen. So we want to lead like the two. We want to see what a West plays here. If they play the ace, we want to play small. And if they play small, we're going to play the king or the queen. So we want to lead low towards those honors. We want to put the pressure on the opponents. They have to choose whether to play the ace or not. And if they don't play the ace and we win with the king or the queen, we want to use a different suit, go back to the south hand or whatever hand this is, and we want to do it again. We want to put that pressure back on them one more time. All right. So now that we've gotten that challenge question out of the way, let's talk about our goals in the auction. Taking tricks is not easy. So that example that we just went through there in the challenge question is a perfect example of how bridge really challenges you to think sort of outside of the box. Think about those cards that you can't see, and that's not the easiest thing to do. So the idea of the auction is we're bidding to try to determine how many tricks we think we're going to take and what we want that trump suit to be. So when we bid higher in the auction, we have to try to take more tricks. So if we start at the 1 level and we end up at the 5 level, well, now we have to take like 5 more tricks or 4 more tricks than we did if we had just stayed at the 1 level. So if we're playing in 3 spades, for example, we need 3 plus 6 tricks. So we are always trying to take at least the majority. So the 1 level corresponds to 7 tricks. So if we're playing in 3 spades, we need 3 plus 6 tricks, which will end up being 9 of the 13 total tricks. If we're playing in 6 spades, we need 6 plus 6 tricks, which would be 12 of the 13 tricks. So why on earth would we put that pressure on ourselves to bid higher? Well, because we can get more points. So this is why it's important to understand what the scoring is. So let's talk about how a hand of bridge is scored. So bridge's scoring system is not the most straightforward. And so we're going to break it down into just the bones to start. So first, if you make your contract, you get points. If you don't make your contract, your opponent gets points. Making your contract is good. Beating your opponent's contract is good. Not making your contract is generally not good. If you are declaring, you get points for what your contract was and also how many tricks you take. But that's all under the assumption that you made your contract. If you didn't make your contract, you would be getting nothing. If you are defending, you get points for how many tricks you end up beating their contract. So let's talk about the defender's points first. So the defenders earn points if they beat the contract. So for example, let's say that our opponents are in 6 no trump and we end up taking 3 tricks. So they were trying to take 6 plus 6 tricks, which would be 12, but we got 3 of the 13 total tricks. So our opponents only took 10. So what we did was we beat that contract by 2 tricks. Unfortunately, it's not just that simple. We do have an extra layer of complication that I'm going to mention to you now. So it's not just that. We also have something that comes into play called the vulnerability. In bridge, you can either be vulnerable or non-vulnerable. When the declarer is vulnerable, they get bigger bonuses, but they also get worse penalties. When they are non-vulnerable, they get smaller bonuses, but they also have smaller penalties. So, if you beat a non-vulnerable contract, you get 50 points for each under trick. So, for each trick that you beat them by. Whereas if you beat a vulnerable contract, you get 100 points for each under trick. So in our example where they were in 6 no trump and we beat them by 2 tricks, if they were non-vulnerable, it would be 50, 100 points for us. And if they were vulnerable, then we would get 100, 200 points. So that's the difference between vulnerable and non-vulnerable from the defender's side. Let's talk about declarer's trick points. So, declarer will only earn points if we end up making our contract. So, assuming that we made our contract, each trick after the first 6 when we are playing in a major suit contract is worth 30 points. And we're going to walk through a couple of examples here, so if this is a lot right now, don't worry. For no trump, it's going to be 30 points plus a bonus 10 for the last trick. And then a minor suit contract is only worth 20 points for each trick beyond the first 6. So, seems like we really want to focus on majors and no trump because those two definitely score better than those pesky little minors. Alright, so let's walk through a couple of examples so we get to see how this all works out. So, first we are playing in 3 no trump and we take 10 tricks. So first, did we make our contract? Well, in 3 no trump, we need 3 plus 6 tricks, which would be 9. We took 10, so heck yeah, we made our contract. How many tricks did we take after the first 6? Well, we know that there are 10 tricks that we took, so 10 minus 6 would be 4. So we took 4 tricks beyond those first 6. And so what is our trick point score going to be? Well, it's going to be 30 points for each trick beyond those first 6, plus a bonus 10. So 30 times 4 would be 120, plus 10 would be 130. So our trick point score for this contract would be 130 points. Let's say we were playing in 2 hearts and we took 9 tricks. Well, did we make our contract? Playing in 2 hearts, we need 6 plus 2, which would be 8, and we took 9. So we definitely made our contract. How many tricks did we take after the first 6? Well, we took 9, so 9 minus 6 would be 3. So what is our trick point score going to be? Well, it's going to be 30 because we were playing in a major, which are hearts and spades. So it's going to be 30 times 3 because that's how many tricks we were above those first 6. So we're going to have a trick point score of 90. Now, let's say we were playing in 4 clubs and we took 12 tricks. What? Okay, so did we make our contract? Yes, we did. We were in 4 clubs, so 4 plus 6 would be 10. We took 12. Boom, easy. How many tricks after the first 6 did we take? Well, it's going to be 12 minus 6, which would be 6. And so what is our trick point score going to be? It's going to be 20 for each minor suit trick times 6 for those 6 tricks that we took. So it's going to be 120. So that seemed like a lot of work. We took 12 tricks playing in 4 clubs and we got 120 trick points versus only taking 10 tricks and no trump, we got 130 trick points. So you can already see why there's a huge disparity between the times that we want to play in no trump versus a minor. We do not like playing in those minors. So now let's talk about those bonus points. So you will only earn points if you make your contract. But we earn bonus points if we reach certain bonus levels. So the part score, these are generally going to be low level contracts. They're going to be anything below game. Game is going to be where most hands aim to be in the auction. And slam is saying that you are going to take 12 or 13 of the 13 total tricks. What? So that doesn't happen super often, but that is something we want to keep in mind. So where is game? I keep alluding to it and we have not defined it. Let's talk about it. So those game bonuses, these are going to correspond to where the trick point score would meet or exceed 100. So let's figure out where those game levels are. So for no trump, we get 30 points for each trick plus 10. So for that first trick, we would end up getting 40 points. For the second trick, we would get 30 plus 30, which is 60, plus 10, which would be 70. The 3 level, we would get 30 plus 30 plus 30, which is 90, plus 10, boom, 100. So our game level for no trump is going to be at the 3 level. It is going to be 3 no trump. That is where our game bonus comes into play. The majors, those are going to be worth 30 points for each trick beyond the first 6. So let's figure out where the game bonus comes into play. At the 1 level, it's going to be worth 30 points. At the 2 level, it's going to be 30 plus 30, which would be 60. 30 times 3 for the 3 level, which is going to be 90. Not quite there. And then finally, at the 4 level, we have, oh, it's supposed to say 120, but I wrote 100. Whoops. This is definitely supposed to say 120. Let me just loop. Can I write this? No. They don't want to let me write. Okay, well, I give up. All right, so that's supposed to say 120, but we've met or exceeded 100 there. Okay, so for the minors, these are going to be worth 20 points for each trick. So starting at that 1 level, it's going to be 20 times 1, which will be 20. 20 times 2, 40. 60, 80, 100. So our game levels are going to be 3 no trump, 4 of a major, or 5 of a minor. So these are where those game bonuses come into play. So let's talk about those bonus points one more time and get some hard numbers in there. So part scores are going to be anything below game. Those are going to earn you a bonus of 50 points. So our part scores for no trump are going to be 1 no trump and 2 no trump. For the majors, it's going to be 1 of a major through 3 of a major. So 3 spades is the last part score for the majors. And then those minors, their part scores go all the way up to the 4 level. So you can still take 10 tricks and not get a game bonus for those minors. So we really don't like playing in a minor suit contract. Our games are going to be 3 no trump, 4 of a major, and 5 of a minor. So non-vulnerable, the bonus you get for playing in a game and making it, is going to be 300 points. But vulnerable, it's going to be 500. Woo! So this is why when you are vulnerable versus non-vulnerable, you get a bigger risk, but a bigger reward. So if you go down in a vulnerable contract, you lose 100 points for each under trick. But if you make a vulnerable game, well, you get 500 bonus points. So it's a huge difference. Slams are going to be at the 6 and 7 level. So a small slam is going to be at the 6th level, and you get 500 points for that non-vulnerable, and 750 points if you are vulnerable. For a grand slam, it's going to be 1,000 points non-vulnerable and 1,500 points vulnerable. So those don't happen too often, but the key idea here is that you have to commit to this contract before you see your partner's hand. So you have an auction where you determine where you are going to be playing, And then finally you settle into where you end up playing, and then you try to make it. And if you are successful, you will get these bonuses depending on where you are. So let's score a few hands. So we are playing in a non-vulnerable 3 no trump contract, and we took 10 tricks. So what bonus are we going to get here? Well, 3 no trump is one of our game levels. So with this, we should get a game bonus. We are also non-vulnerable, so we only get the non-vulnerable game bonus, which is 300 points. And what is our trick point score for this? It's going to be the same as last time, but let's remind ourselves. So 10 tricks minus 6, there were 4 tricks that we got beyond the first 6. So 30, 60, 90, 120 plus 10, it's going to be 130 points. So our total score is going to be the combination of those two. So it's going to be 300 plus 130, which is going to give us 430 points. Now let's take a look at a different one. We are playing in a vulnerable 2-heart contract, and we take 9 tricks. What bonus are we getting here? Well, did we reach that threshold of game? No, we did not. So with this hand, we are just going to be playing in a part score, so we get that part score bonus. What is our trick point score? Well, it's going to be those 3 tricks beyond the first 6, so 30, 60, 90. So we're going to have 90 trick points there. And our total score is going to be the combination of those two, so it'll be a total of 140. And then finally, we are playing in a non-vulnerable 4-club contract. This is a minor suit contract. We take 12 tricks. What bonus did we get? Well, this is still a part score. The minor game level is all the way up at the 5 level, and so we did not reach that threshold. So what is our trick point score? Well, it's going to be 6 tricks beyond the first 6, so 6 times 20 is going to be 120. And what is our total score? It's going to be the combination of those two, so it'll be 50 plus 120, which is going to be 170. So it's good to understand how these scores are calculated and where they come from, but I'm going to tell you right now, you do not have to memorize any of this. You do not have to calculate scores at the table. If you have a bidding box with you, you can just look at the back of the card that has your final contract on it. If you made your contract, it will tell you what score you get based on how many tricks you took. If you go down in a contract, you can look at the back of the double card or the pass card, I think. And that will tell you what the score is for going down in that contract. Or just going down, whether you're vulnerable or non-vulnerable. So now we know our goals in the auction. And so now what we want to do is we want to figure out how to get to our desired places to play, which are primarily going to be 4 of a major and 3 no trump, because those minors, that's way too much work. We have to get all the way to the 5 level, and we don't even get a big bonus. Like, we get 300 points for being non-vulnerable and playing in 5 clubs and making it. Like, ugh. So instead, we would rather try to play in 3 no trump or 4 of a major. So I find it really helpful to know what our end goal is, but as we are developing our strategies to get to those end goals. So we're going to be tackling more of that next week. And I guess I am ending a little bit early today, but I started a couple minutes early. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for stopping by. I do have a Zoom registration link for anybody who is interested. It should be in the description. So if anybody wants to join the live Zoom next week, you absolutely can, and you'll be able to ask questions in real time. So if, like, opening the bidding and talking about like those beginning structures of the auction is something that you want to be able to ask questions about, feel free to join that Zoom link. I send out a reminder email 15 minutes before the class. And yeah, thank you guys for stopping by, and until next time, happy bridging.